Well, good morning. It is awesome to be back. I personally love the snow. So for me, whenever I heard you guys got a crap ton of snow, I was really jealous, to be honest. And then I realized that it was so much that you guys couldn't go outside in it, and I was like, what's the point? But I'm still excited to be back. I love the snow so much, and I'd rather put on a jacket than sweat. But California was beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous weather. To them, 60 degrees is cold. To here, 40 degrees is warm. So a little change there. And whenever it rains out there, they can't go anywhere. It's like ice to us. So our first 2 days, we had some of the biggest rains they've had actually in a long time. They're in a drought for the last 4 years. And so they almost shut down. It was kind of hilarious, the difference between week 1 and week 3 at the same place, doing the same stuff. First week, this is a decent-sized ministry. Third week, wow, everyone came out of the woodwork because it was finally sunny, and they actually can function in sun. So
I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops the day before we came back here, so I do miss that a little bit, but I mean, the snow's all right, we'll make do. We came back to you, we promised, so we had to come back. No, I'm kidding. We missed you guys too, we did, we really missed you guys. All right, so we're just going to tell you a little bit about our trip. The first part's going to be kind of storytelling. Yep. So this is day 1 of travels. Left on the airport, you can see your very own Dan Pratt sipping on a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee. We were a little bit tired. We left till like 2 in the morning, something like that. And then those are 3 of our teammates. There's one under the seats, if you can see up top. We were all a little bit tired, and we had a layover that was like 3 hours. So we took some naps. And then this was just a beautiful view out west over the Rocky Mountains. Super cool to fly across the country. You go from all this farmland to flat stuff to lots of mountains and dry, and then bam, LA is right there. So it was really cool. And so this is what we saw when we got there. Just wanted to bring a little bit of sunshine back to you guys. Love the palm trees, absolutely love them. LA, busy traffic as usual. And this is just a little bit of the fun. We wanted to just kind of show you a little bit of the fun we did before we got into the serious stuff. But we went to Hollywood Boulevard right away as we got there. We got to see the stars. I put Kermit the Frog up here in case we have any fans. We did some shopping. We went to like 3 different cool malls up top. Some of you, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you saw that we went to a movie theater that you could order from your seats, and they would bring it to you whatever time you requested. So you could order before, and the little person up front, and you'd be like, hey, I really like a strawberry smoothie at this time, and they would bring it to you. It was really cool. Dan wouldn't let me do it because it was too expensive, but it was still an option. We also went to In-N-Out Burger. For those of you who know what that is, California famous. My dad said you have to go to In-N-Out Burger when you go out there. We went there 3 times, thanks to Dan. And it was a cool place. It's like a little classic burger, fries, and milkshake joint. We also got to see the Pacific Ocean. Now, it was warmer, but it was still cold. So we, most of us put our feet in. The waves did crash me up to here, but Dan decided he was going to dive full head first. So he did do that. We also went to Disneyland, which was awesome. I love Disney, so it was really cool to see that. And then we did some day trips. We had a week in between our 2 weeks of the Dream Center, which we're going to talk mostly about. But one of our day trips was at a school called Murray Elementary. This was in Azusa, California. About 95% Hispanic population. A lot of the kids are bilingual. I had a kid in my class, actually, who only spoke Spanish. So I took 5 years of Spanish in school, but I'm not fluent. And it was a little bit of a struggle. I'd say something to him in English, and he'd be like, yo no inglés. And I was like, oh, great. But it was fun. It was definitely a stretching experience. The kids were so cute. I was in a 1st grade classroom helping for the day, and Dan was with kindergarteners, so that's fun. And this is a very poor area. It was actually about a mile away from this elementary school where my dad grew up and went to school. So after the school day, I met up with my aunt, and she showed me where he went to elementary school, middle school, and maybe a year of high school, but at least where she graduated. And then I got to see his house where he grew up. Just a really cool experience. Helped me to understand him a little bit better and the craziness of his family. But yeah, really, really cool area. Fun fact we learned while we were there, we had a debrief afterward, and a lot of the parents of these students are illegal immigrants. And so it's Southern California, so they'll go back and forth to Mexico. and a lot of them are not educated, so they can't read, they can't write permission slips. The moms will take it home to the dads because most of the time the dads will be able to sign their name. But really sad situation, and there's usually like 4 or 5 families that live in like a 1 or 2 bedroom house. So it's just a really different situation. Breaks your heart, but these kids are just so sweet. We also had a day where we got to learn how to make tamales because it was a cross-cultural trip. It was not like a big month-long vacation for Dan and I. Just to throw that out there, we had to go for school. And so we learned a little bit about the Mexican culture. We got to make tamales. This is Dan playing with the little girl of the woman who showed us how to do it. He was a big kid out there. We also went to Rosemead School of Psychology. If you're familiar with Biola, or what was the other one? Talbot Seminary. It's on the same campus. And so our professor's sister is actually the assistant dean of this school. And we got to meet with a guy and talk about just like racial issues on campuses. And that was a really cool experience. This is Saddleback Ministries. If you're familiar with Saddleback, we got to go tour it for a day. Saddleback is, we looked it up, the 7th largest church in the nation. And I want to see the first one because this was massive. I cannot even imagine how big the first one is. This church had its own campus, bigger than Messiah College, bigger than a lot of colleges. They had stoplights, they had parking, they had shuttles with like Disney World. We worship in a barn, so I was like, what in the world is going on here? But the pastor, Rick Warren, that's his name, right?
Yes, Rick Warren.
He is the pastor of the Purpose-Driven Life, Purpose-Driven Church. This is actually really cool. He has been the head pastor here for a while now, really built this ministry up because they started off much smaller and grew to this. They now have several campuses. But they told us that whenever he came out with these books, he made millions of dollars. And when he made this money, he paid the church back every dime that they ever paid him, and now he works for free. And so it's really cool. Like, he's giving them his service for nothing, which is really admirable. And he has another book coming out too, I hear. But this is the church. On the left side, these 4 pictures, this is the youth ministry building. It's called the Refinery, and I have a lot more if you want to see more, but massive. And the whole thing reminded me of Disney World. There was a big skate park you see up top in the middle. This is actually for the big people church, as they call it, but each age group had its own little baptism pool. So this is right outside the main sanctuary, which is up here. Those screens, if you can see them, I've never seen screens that big. Like, I don't even know if you could fit it in this sanctuary. But just a very different environment. It's in Orange County, California, so it's much, what was the word we used? Upper class, more. They have a lot more money, so this is more of the target audience. This refinery down here actually has a burger joint and a pizza joint, so kids can come 24 hours a week and bring money and buy food and hang out, play basketball, skate park, whatever. They have
And upstairs
everything.
has like video games for free. So we were playing
that, yeah.
pinball and bowling, and
They have pool tables,
fun.
all kinds of stuff. It was cool. This is Kids World, which was ridiculous. This is probably the biggest deal on the campus. This is a 3-story kids building solely for kids. Each level has a different name. Each level's for a different age group. I don't think I put it in here, but they have very large meeting rooms for each age group. This is the information desk. It was all like under the sea themed. So you can see they had like 2 huge hallways of just aquariums with awesome looking aquatic fish and what was it? They had some big lizard in there.
They had,
all kinds of
Gila
crazy
monster.
stuff. This is their baptism pool right here. And then up in the top left corner, that is the tomb that they built. They use it for like Easter. Whenever they're doing reenactments, it actually has a stone that rolls. Right up to the left of it, you can't see it, but there are 3 crosses on a hill, so they act all this out for the kids. They have a tree of life, so they go out there to teach kids about that story. They have something that they use for the burning bush with Moses, like very hands-on ministry.
And fun story.
Yeah.
This tree up there is an olive tree donated by Bono himself.
they're
So the lead
friends.
singer of U2 is good friends with the lead pastor of the church and donated a tree all the way from the Middle East.
Middle East, yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So what we want to spend the most time talking about this morning is the Dream Center. Half of my heart is still at the Dream Center. I absolutely loved it there. We spent 2 weeks of our time out there. It's a nonprofit. And we're just going to show you a video to help you get a better idea, and then we'll go into more detail about what we did at the Dream Center.
The Dream Center was my last place to go because I had been everywhere 3 times over, and this was my last chance.
I was hurting people around me, and it didn't affect my life. It didn't hurt me, really,
And I didn't care if I lived or not. I didn't feel like I had a reason to live.
I knew that the only way to get saved and to get help and to live again was through God.
The Dream Center made it possible for me to live. It made it possible for me to look forward to my future, and it made it possible for me to dream again.
Our pastor, Matthew Barnett, was alone in Echo Park, and God told him, if you want to build the church that I'm calling you to build, it's going to be a church that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And every single ministry that's been birthed out of this place over the last 16 years have been birthed out of a need. His slogan is, find a need and fill it. Find a hurt and heal it. And that's what we do every single day here at the Dream Center.
Pastor Matthew just started knocking on doors in the neighborhood. So he becomes like the neighborhood janitor, right? He starts knocking on doors and just saying, how can I serve you? How can I help you? What do you need? He started this program called Adopt a Block, and that evolved because he met a guy that was on drugs, and it wasn't enough just to knock on his door on Saturday or invite him to church on Sunday, but he needed 24/7 recovery. So you got this discipleship program that's a recovery program that he lives in for free, completely free. And so this guy comes in and his life is totally recovered step by step, and it's a year-long free program. But then you got teenagers that are runaway teenagers, and so he's like, well, listen, this is another need, and we got to fill this need. So there's a teen discipleship program now for teenagers recovering.
We have trucks that go out every single day into the community, feeding families that need it. It's the largest nonprofit food bank in Los Angeles. 1 million pounds of food every single month that not just comes in, but then goes out. The medical truck is a really cool thing. It's a fully functioning medical clinic on wheels. They go down into homeless shelters around LA. They go out every single day, and basically what they do is they give medical care for free to those that don't have any insurance. Family came up to Pastor Matthew after service, and they had nowhere to go. They were evicted from their apartment, had hit hard times, and literally had no place to go that night. I knew that by that next week we would have a full-blown family floor program. And sure enough, on a Sunday we brought in our first family, and by the next Sunday we had an entire floor here at the Dream Center with families that had nowhere to go. Every ministry that starts here started that way. Money follows ministry. So you get in there, you do the ministry, we'll jump in with both feet, we'll figure it out later.
There's always something going on. This building to me is a place of change. It's a place that's changing people's lives. And the crazy thought about it is to think this is 100% not government funded. This is a bunch of donors, a bunch of people giving $1, $10, bigger checks, whatever it be, and making this place run every single month.
Dream Center's been built on sacrifice. It's been built on people like myself that caught a vision to help others, caught a vision to help make life better for some people. We want to make a difference. We want to be involved with an organization like the Dream Center where every penny that we give, we know they're good stewards of it. They do a good job.
Every day on this property, miracles are happening, God miracles. You can't help but get excited about that.
I grew up with an alcoholic father. He was kind of angry and abusive. And then I was molested until I was about 8 years old by a really close family member. Left me really confused, didn't know what to do, didn't know what was wrong. I started cutting myself and smoking cigarettes, hanging out with the wrong crowd. Then when I was 11, I got addicted to Vicodin, and that just sent me on a downward spiral. And from the time I was 12 until November 27th of 2010, I was addicted to heroin and crystal meth at the same time. I ended up getting pregnant with my boyfriend's child, and about 2.5 months into it, I had a miscarriage. I didn't know what to do, so I tried to kill myself. This was my last resort, pretty much. The Dream Center was my last place to go. I went from being physically and mentally addicted to heroin and crystal meth for 4 years, and now I don't need it at all. It's hard to change. It's hard to look at yourself and scoop out all the bad stuff and scrape all the nasty stuff out of your heart. And I used to worship the devil, and now I'm worshiping God. And it's not just I believe in him, I have a relationship with him. I feel him. It's not just oh, he's out there somewhere in the universe. He's right here with me, and he's always going to be there no matter what happens.
And that's what we do. We rescue people. We rescue the drug addict. We rescue the kid that their parents have given up on them. We rescue the homeless family that has nowhere to go. Every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the Dream Center, which truly is the church that never sleeps, is all about rescuing people.
I know the first time I watched that video before I went to California, I was like, really? Like, did they pick the girl with like the craziest story? Because it seems like everything was against her. Like, literally everything in the book she experienced. And then you go to California and you meet these people in real life, several of them with stories just like hers, addicted to drugs, like the hardest ones, coke, meth, whatever it is, losing their families, being married and then divorcing, losing their kids in custody, like all kinds of crazy, crazy stories, and then their lives are transformed. And I'll talk a little bit more about that then. So this is the Dream Center. It's very, very large. This is the largest Dream Center in the world, actually. There are like 100 different locations in the U.S. and across the way, so all over the place. But it actually used to be used for Hollywood movies, so like it's a pretty cool building, but they use it for ministry now.
And before that, it was a Catholic hospital run by nuns.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an amazing story about how they got it for a great price. And
yeah, it's really cool.
I can't remember all the details, but it definitely was a God thing that it fell into the hands of who it fell into.
This is kind of just a bigger picture of it. So this is the back side of the ministry. That big building is where we stayed in. On the right side is their short-term missions floor. This big white house right here, we didn't get to see, but I would have loved to. I think that's what this is for, the Emancipating Youth Home. And so they bring in youth, young adults from the ages of like 18 to probably mid-20s. And they allow them to stay in this home, and they help them to get back on their feet. Oftentimes these are kids found on the streets who are homeless, who are addicted to these drugs, sometimes gang members, sometimes kids who are put in homes, and then on their 18th birthday, instead of a birthday present, they get luggage at their door and say, you have to leave. And so the Dream Center steps in and says, not on our watch, and they take them in and they put them here. And it's really cool. Mm-hmm. They also have these trucks right here. There's usually, I think they have 6 of them. These are their food trucks, which they load up every single day and take out to various locations throughout LA, and they feed the hungry.
This is their medical clinic. They have a mobile medical one here. Yeah. Dentist office on wheels. Mm-hmm. This is, I think, more a discipleship house, and even down here is even part of them. It's their gym area. So it's a huge campus. Huge. It's kind of crazy. Your 6th floor is actually almost ground level because it drops off down the hill. So these buildings are multi-level. It's absolutely ginormous.
So this is what they call His Hands Ministry, which is kind of cool because we have a His Hands too. But this is a clothing ministry. And so the first 2 days I was there, the first week, my team got to organize clothes. So we got to go through, here's the trash bags over here, and then this is just a little store. They were preparing to have a free come get clothes day, which was 2 days after we were organizing. Crazy what happened in a short amount of time. They ended up closing like thousands and thousands of homeless people with the clothes that they got. Like, large number work here. This is just a picture up here. They have an entire wall with awesome, like inspirational quotes. And if you start at the one side of the wall and work your way down the entire way, it's just this beautiful story of transformation. And they use that for their discipleship program, which we'll tell you about in a little bit. This is the food truck ministry. And there's just various pictures of us, but this over here is the first step. So we all go and you load up the truck. They get huge skids every day from various businesses that have food that's about to expire. So they bring it to the Dream Center. They have teams loaded up. Oftentimes, some of them are bad. Some of them have mold on them. Some of them are okay. So you get like jalapeno sauce all over you and like all kinds of stuff. So you smell really nice after it's over. But
this kid here dropped a box of squash and it like exploded on him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun.
And it's different food every day. You never know what you're going to get.
This one, the first 2 days, it was raining like crazy, so that is a plastic bag as a hat.
Which an Asian woman put on his head, actually. All she could say in English was, Jesus #1. So she said that everywhere she went. And it was great. She only knew how to say like #1, #2, and #3. So she'd be like, you #3, I #2, Jesus #1. And that's all she did. And she was great. So she put a hat on his head so he didn't get cold. And then this is what we do. We go to the sites. You can see the housing in the background. This is the projects, which they're now calling housing developments. And we set up skids. We bag all the food. We put it there, and then they come through a line, and we hand it out. And then there's always a prayer team at the end. And so you offer a prayer to people. And sometimes this can be hard because they don't always speak English. And so Dan and I were, of course, on the prayer team the day that we were at a fully Hispanic neighborhood. And I'm like, hey, can I pray for you? And they're like, you know, English, you know, so I'm just like.
And then there's one that you said, can we pray for you? Like, yes. And like, anything you need prayer for? Yes. Anything, and then you finally realized.
All he could say was yes.
Yeah, but it was amazing. They were so warm and welcoming, but it's just, there's such a barrier there. So
eventually we learned how to say, can I pray for you in English? And then they would be okay with that, and they would pray along with you as you prayed for them. So that was a cool experience, stretching. This is part of what they call Adopt-A-Block. Adopt-A-Block is really cool. The Dream Center has adopted a total of 150 blocks in LA at 15 different locations, and I think we're going to show you 3 different ones on these slides. But we got to be part of this ministry like 3 or 4 times while we were out there. This particular neighborhood is called Nickerson Gardens, and it is one of their, projects out there. This is part of the playground, the basketball court. And we went here on a Saturday mission, which I have pictures of that as well later. But the boys love to play basketball, so Dan's over there with a few of their guys. I was coloring and like helping girls jump rope and just bouncing balls with little kids. Simple stuff that's just relational, that doesn't matter if there's a language barrier, they love it.
The area this is in is the largest government housing west of the Mississippi. So you stand there and you're in the middle of a park, and everywhere you look around, it's the same yellow buildings.
It's kind of like a prison feel or concentration camp. It's really sad.
And it's crazy because you look around and it's just house after house after house. But at the same time, people that we were working with go to house and they actually build relationships, and instead of seen as a plain house, they get to know a lot more. It's kind of a deeper level. It's really
You can
impactful.
see here, there's a lot of trash everywhere you go. Like the yards were filled with trash. So we would often go, and the first thing we would do is pick up trash as a service to them, and then talk to the people. These 2 kids, I put pictures up in particular because I really connected with them. They're brothers. The top one's name is Mark, and the bottom is Miguel, and they're so fun. I was on a knocking door team that one day, so I went with Dan and this other guy who's part of the Dream Center Leadership School, and we just knocked on doors. One of the rules is don't knock like the cops, because if you knock too hard, they don't come to the door. So you have to knock nicely and say Dream Center, and then they come out, and oftentimes they don't trust people, so they have a screen between the door that you can't really see through, and they'll just be like, what do you want? Like real guarded. And once they realize, okay, these are good people, then they open the door. But we came across Mark and Miguel's house, and they were familiar with the Dream Center, and we invited them to come play with us at the park. And the week before, I went to the same neighborhood for a Tuesday afternoon ministry called Kids Jam. And they invite the kids to come after school, and they do this great program for them. It's just, a cool way to have something for the kids. And this kid up top, Mark, he sat on my right, and they split the boys and girls, and so I was right in between the boys and girls. And I had the boys here and the girls here, and this one little girl was on my side, and this Mark was on my side. They were about the same age, like maybe 4th or 5th grade. And then this cute little black boy just came and plopped himself right in my lap. And I was like, all right. I felt like, it was so fun. I was right at home. But, I had a white girl, a black boy, and a Hispanic boy. So, as diverse as you can get. And in the middle of this lesson, these 2 kids on my left and right start fighting. And the girl hops over my lap with the little kid in my lap. So she's standing over me like this, trying to punch Mark. And they're dropping the F-bomb at each other. This just showed me their environment so much. I'm like, if they think this is okay to treat each other like this, imagine what they see at home, Abuse is probably fine. They probably get cursed at. We learned that a lot of these kids get told on the daily, I wish you were never born. I wish you would die. I hate you. I wish you weren't in my life. just breaks your heart, you know? And so immediately I recognized Mark's voice because he was not very happy that day. And I was like, Mark, I sat beside you at Kids Jam, didn't I? And he's like, yeah, I remember you. And so we instantly formed this relationship. I stuck by his side the entire time, didn't let him go. He was a completely different kid. He didn't swear one time. I did not see an ounce of anger in him. He was just so happy to have somebody give him attention. That's all these kids want. And so that was this really cool story. And then at the end of our time, this is like the day before we left, day or two before we left, Mark said, so are you coming back next week? And I had to tell him no. And that just broke my heart. And I said, listen, buddy, if I can come back, you better bet you I'm going to come back. And he said, yeah, that's what the last one said too. And so this just shows you, like, this is what they see all the time. People coming, some of them are there for, year, 2-year missions. But if you create a relationship with a short-term person, it's really hard. And so that really broke my heart. But I love those kids. Mm-hmm. This was our Saturday mission. On Saturdays, like throughout the week, Monday through Friday, you have a strict schedule of what you do. On Saturdays, they have what is called like community adopted blocks. So they invite everyone from the church to come. And this is the gym, jam-packed full. Before you go for a half hour, you have only praying. So they put on worship music really loud, and people, this is a Pentecostal background, so people are circling the gym, praying, hands in the air, shouting out, whatever. It's just a really cool environment to be in. And then we went to another place called Jordan Downs, and these little girls love to jump rope. And then we always pray in and pray out of every mission. And at the end, these little girls wanted to pray for us. So this little girl actually, she thanked God for food on the table every day and shelter, which is really sweet because they live in, these little shacks and don't have a whole lot. So that was cool. This is Skid Row. I did not take this picture. If you type in Skid Row LA on Google, you get a bunch of these pictures. Skid Row is 54 blocks of this. They live in tents. They sleep in sleeping bags. Smells like pot everywhere you go. Rats are running rampant. Just like a very bad area right outside of the city. So we would go and we would offer them water, hot dogs, whatever we could offer to them. Pray for them. A lot of times they were under the influence of something. So we did what we felt the Lord wanted us to do. But that was by far the most stretching experience.
It's amazing. You stand kind of the edge of Skid Row. It's this packed behind you. 2 blocks down, you see skyscrapers and business people. Mm-hmm. It's that close. It's that insane. Because you'd think there's a little more different. No, almost right on top of each other. Mm-hmm. It's such a vast difference.
This is the church that we went to 3 times. It's called Angelus Temple. And this is Pastor Matthew Barnett, who is Tommy Barnett, if you know that, his son's church. This is the church that's closely connected with the Dream Center. The one day our mission was to go and pray for this church. We hadn't seen the church before. And so they said, okay, you're going to go and pray over every single seat. I'm like, sweet. I got like 100 chairs in my congregation. I can totally do this. We show up and we have that. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is going to take forever. So we had a team of people. In about 2 hours, we prayed for the entire place. Awesome experience. Dan and I think, stood there and stared at each other for about 5 minutes before we prayed.
So we come in, hear kind of like the history of the church, and then she said, yeah, you guys are going to pray for every seat, and go. And I'm like, this is something I've never done before. I don't normally just pray for a seat that I don't know who's going to be sitting in. Like, there's...
Really, yeah.
I'm okay praying for a person, but I don't know who the heck's going to sit in the seat. And she gave us a little direction, said, I got to go do something else, and left. And I stood there dumbfounded for about 5 minutes. And then we finally got to go in, and then it was an awesome experience. We got into it, but it was just so stretching, so outside my comfort zone. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah, but it was a really cool experience in the end. This is the church on the Sunday morning. Just wanted to give you like a picture of what it looks like, how vastly different it is from here. But
just a little bit.
Just a little bit different. But
there's also a huge dome. So you look straight up. It's a huge dome. It's quite the impressive structure.
Yeah, interesting. This is their Thursday night service. So they have Thursday night services, which we went to twice, and then a Sunday morning we went to once. On the left here, I just want to talk about that quickly. They have a discipleship program, which I mentioned earlier. This is for people from ages 18 to 20, or 18 to 60, ages, or men and women. and they come and they split them into, gender appropriate groups, and they have a lot of people in this program. And basically these people are the ones coming in from different gangs with the addictions, with all of the messed up issues. Anybody who just wants a fresh start at life can come and join this ministry. And so the Dream Center, it's 24-hour recovery, because that's what they realize people need. You can't just expect somebody to recover and check in with them once a week. They need that step-by-step every day. They serve. Once they get so high up in the program, they lead. They have daily devotions, worship, beautiful, beautiful thing. And so we actually got to witness a graduation, and 9 people graduated on the Sunday we were there, and amazing. Like, these people are sharing stories like, 1 year ago today, I was addicted to meth and cocaine, lost my entire family, and today I'm free of those things. God has restored my marriage. He's brought my kids back into my life, and I love Jesus so much. The one guy came back and said, I'm from North Carolina, I'm graduating, I'm going home, but in a couple of years, I'm going to get married, and I'm going to have kids, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to show them where their daddy got accepted, where he asked Jesus into his heart, where he decided to follow him, and where his life was changed. And so, beautiful. I had tears every single time they shared stories. The coolest thing was that this congregation was so encouraging and so supportive. They gave them a standing ovation before they even got out on the stage and after they were done. Like, it's just a beautiful, you can't, make this stuff up. It was awesome. So yeah, we talked about the discipleship program. Those are just 3 of the guys that use this picture a lot. The top is DCLS, the leadership school, and so this is for people who are fresh out of high school. So typically you're 18 to early 20s, and they come and they have leadership training. Really cool ministry.
And there's a connection with a semi-local university that they can get their start working on the degree online while learning leadership. It's really, really awesome program, and learn a lot of amazing leaders came out of that. Most of their ministries have at least some of those kids, teenagers, leading. In fact, one of them was one of the drivers for a food truck. So imagine driving in LA traffic, and then imagine it in a food truck, and being a teenager, and he was amazing, absolutely amazing. So my question is, that's all well and good, but we're not in LA, so how does this apply to us? Because we're not in LA, we're not a mega church, our screen is a projector, not a huge LCD, beautiful screen, but costs a fortune. We don't have a large budget, and also we don't necessarily face the same magnitude of problems. So how does all this apply to us? Now, you can probably guess where I'm going. I'm pretty predictable. I'm about to go into Scripture, but we've all heard the normal run-of-the-mill, serve one another, don't build up your possessions, the rich young ruler. So I'm actually going to start with Christmas. Christmas is when we celebrate, when we think about the birth of Christ, the incarnation of God into human form. We literally celebrate God coming to earth to serve humans. In fact, Mark 10:45, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Or better yet, Philippians 2:1-11, I'm going to focus on 3-8. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each of you not look to your own interest, but to the interest of others, and let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, did not regard equality with God as something to be exploited, but he emptied himself, taking the form of a slave, being born in human likeness, and being found in human form, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. So, if our example, our glorious King, humbled himself to leave his throne in heaven, live, suffer, and die on earth for us. So again, our King, Christ, humbled himself, left his throne in heaven to live, suffer, and die for us. So then, if we add something to that, let the same mind be in you that is in Christ Jesus. Or as 1 John 2:6 says, those who say they live in God should live their lives as Jesus did. So if we truly take that to heart, let the same mind be in you that was in Christ, looking not to our interests, but to the interests of others, whom we regard as better than ourselves. I think that's the part that hits me the hardest. Because I went from here, where I think is awesome, I love the rural feel, I've grown up in Pennsylvania my whole life, I think here's pretty awesome, to LA, which is city. I don't particularly care for cities. I was driving through Carlisle the other day and don't like the few stoplights in Carlisle. LA really drove me nuts, especially in a 15-passenger van. I almost got car sick a few times. So I was like, this is weird, almost looking down upon the city because it's not where I'm comfortable. It's not where I feel is best. And so you almost kind of get this condescending appeal, or like I'm helping out these poor homeless people. And one of the best things I heard at the Dream Center was the flip of that. It's not homeless people or disabled people or poor people. It is persons experiencing homelessness. It's a beautiful thing that we are all created in the same image. Now, some of us may have added a little more paint to the image than others or distorted a little bit more, but the original image that we are all made in is the image of God himself. So, in fact, in Galatians 5:13-14, we read, "For you were called to freedom. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence, but through love become slaves to one another. For the whole law is summed up in a single commandment, you shall love your neighbor as yourself." We see that same term again, slaves. That's a really weird term, because growing up all through our elementary, high school, we have learned that slavery is a bad thing. And it is. It was a horrible injustice, and still is. But we are called to be slaves to one another. Christ humbled himself to the point of a slave to serve. That is an amazingly powerful idea. Not just we're going to help someone out of the kindness of our hearts, but to literally serve them. So, how do we do that? A lot of times we hear, go serve other people, but we don't know what does that mean. And so it starts with how we treat one another. We read in James 2, 1-12. It talks about, brothers and sisters, do you with your acts of favoritism really believe in the glorious Lord Jesus Christ? If a person with gold rings and fine clothes comes into your assembly, and if a poor person in dirty clothes also comes in, if you take notice to the one wearing the fine clothes and say, here, have a seat here, please. To one who is poor, stand there or sit at my feet. Have you not made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? Listen, my beloved brothers and sisters, has not God chosen the poor in the world to be rich in faith, to be heirs in the kingdom that he has promised to those who love him? But you've dishonored the poor. Is it not the rich who oppress you? Is it not they who drag you into court? Is it not they who blaspheme the excellent name that was invoked over you? You do well if you really fulfill the royal law according to the scripture. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you show partiality, you commit sin and are convicted by the law as transgressors. For whoever keeps the whole law but fails in one point has become accountable for it all. For the one who said, you shall not commit adultery, also said, you shall not murder. Now, if you do not commit adultery, but if you murder, you have become a transgressor of the whole law. So speak and so act as those who are judged by the law of liberty. For judgment will be without mercy to anyone who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. So, yes, that was a decently big passage of scripture, but we read, first and foremost, don't be partial. And I truly was. If I was dealing with someone who I had a common background with, there's some people there from the East Coast, and so I connected with them, or people that maybe looked a little bit more like me or talked a little bit more like me. I could connect with them a lot and it really have a deep personal connection. Someone I didn't understand or someone I didn't necessarily want to associate with, I'd show partiality to, or I'd look down upon, and I admit this of myself. And I think that's a lot of times how we see missions. And it's really hard for me to say that, because a lot of times we say, help them out, which is true. We are giving a help, but it's a service. But I love that last part. For judgment will be without mercy to anyone who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. oftentimes I find myself doing this. I judge, okay, that person needs help because they did it to themselves. They made a mistake, that there was a self-inflicted wound, so why should I help them? We all make stupid mistakes. And that's something that hit me hard. So mercy, this kind of forgiveness of something that was not even done to you, is what we're called to. If Christ would have held everything against us and say they did it to themselves, which we have, which we do, we'd still be lost. And so we're called to love in a amazingly humble, servant fashion. And so this brings us back to Philippians 2. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each one of you not look to your own interests, but to the interests of others, and let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. What does that look like for you? That's up to you. It's up to you and how you treat people, what mission you find yourself in. Not everyone is called to load a food truck. Not everyone is called to walk around and pray for everyone. In fact, I had a better time bagging the groceries than being one-on-one, because I like to work more behind the scenes. In fact, the guy that we were working, we had a whole system, and we bagged a whole pallet of oats. It was insanely boring, but we had a great time, because we were talking and bagging, and the rain was pouring down, and I was soaked on this side because it was flowing, and I was dry on this side. Anyway, but it's a great time because we all have different gifts, and one of mine was, I guess I can do a manual task without thinking about it. I don't know, but it worked because then the next day we handed out those groceries, and people who were much more skilled in one-on-one interaction had the connection and had the prayer and the handing out. And so we all have different gifts and all have different abilities. But it's all in how you use that. One of my favorite stories, I promise this is one of my last ones, is there is a gentleman, actually a few, but the one I want to focus on, who have come through the discipleship program. So they were down and out, had one of those crazy stories of being addicted and just everything fell apart, came through the program, and now both the director of the kitchen, which they feed hundreds of people every day, 3 meals a day, and the director of their food pantry, which moves tons of food, has big handouts to thousands of people, but also supplies all the food trucks. Both of them came through this discipleship program and now are the managers of these ministries. Huge ministries that take great organization, great administrative gifts, great leadership gifts from people who found themselves completely down and out, in need of help from a discipleship program, completely disregarded by most of the world. That just, whenever I heard about that, not just, oh, this is one rare example. No, it's at least 2 different ministries that have their whole they're the highest person, not just some random position. No, the director of that entire ministry came through the discipleship program. His life was changed, and they are now serving in an amazing leadership capacity. So that just the mindset of the Dream Center of working with people and seeing them as fellow children of God is just a beautiful way of doing missions. And so that's what applies to us. It's not just their missions, because yes, they do a lot of stuff, but maybe not everything they do we can do here. But the mannerisms that they have behind it, the reasons why, the perspective that they show, the love that exudes from them, is how it applies to us.
So, Bethany Evangelical Church, if there's one thing that I learned from this whole experience, and there's one thing that I want you to take out of it, is that it's not about you. And I'm sorry, I know that might hurt. Dan and I have heard that several times from professors, but it's not about you. It's not about what you wear to church. It's not about what kind of pews or chairs you sit in. It's not about how many stains are on the floor. It's not about what the sanctuary looks like, how the praise team sounds, how good the message is. In the end, it's about you and what you did to further the kingdom on this earth. When you get to heaven, God's not going to say, oh, good job, Alyssa. You were part of Bethany Evangelical Church since you were a baby. Free ticket in. No, it's going to be about what I personally did to further the kingdom, what I personally did with my relationship with Jesus Christ. That's what matters. And so our challenge to you today is to move from an I want to an I will mindset. I don't want to hear from myself or anybody else. When I hear this from Christians, it drives me nuts. I really want so-and-so to do this at our church. Our church would be so much better if so-and-so did. Why don't you do it, you know? Like, we need to move from an I to an I will. I will pray for my church every week. I will bring snack to the refuge every week. We have women who do that, and that's awesome. The kids love it, I promise. Get a little hyper, but they love it. We need to move to an I will provide lunch for Ignite. I will clean the church. We have people who come here every week and volunteer. It's awesome. We'd be living in a barn, for real, if we didn't have people do that. We need people to do the behind-the-scenes work, to come and pray over seats like we did at Angela's Temple. We need people to come and serve hands-on. We need people to be relational and to take somebody under the wing. We have so many needs here. And something we learned out there was no more big butts for Jesus, and I'm talking about B-U-T-T, you're behind. If you're going to be a part, if you're going to be a part of a church, you cannot just come and sit on your butt every Sunday. Sorry, doesn't cut it. We want kingdom workers. So, no more big butts for Jesus means you need to figure out what God has gifted you with, because we're all gifted differently. The Bible tells us that. Some are given the gift of leadership. Some are given the gift of hospitality. Some of teaching. So figure out what your gift is, because you have one, even if you don't know it yet. Take a gift test. Talk to somebody who knows you well and find out what it is you're good at. And then use it. Don't just sit on your butt and think, oh man, I'm not really good at this. No, use what you're good at and further the kingdom.
I'm going to give a little filler story. My favorite encounter of the whole trip was when there was worship at Angela's Temple. There was a special needs person just to the front left of me. That was the most sincere worship I have ever seen in my entire life. Now, he was jumping around. The person beside him stepped to the side because it's a little zone. That was the most passionate, sincere worship I've ever seen in my life. I don't cry often. It's one of my things. I almost cried at that, which seems hilarious to me. But worship with everything you've got. That was what's so awesome. One guy was playing the saxophone. That was his style of worship. One guy was dancing, literally boogieing. Never seen someone worship in that style of dance before, but it was awesome. So worship.
My favorite quote I heard out there was, "You show me your faith, and I'll show you my faithfulness." And I think God is saying that to us this morning as a church. You show me your faith, Bethany Evangelical Church, and I will show you my faithfulness. He has done it so many times in the past, and I'm not going to start to believe he won't do it now.
So the last Thursday night we were there, we went to the service. And the speaker was from Mississippi and preached like a Southern Baptist preacher. You got your socks rocked a few times, but one of the best things that he said a lot of actually amazingly profound things, but was we rag on Peter so often, because Peter's the one that got out of the boat, started to doubt, and started to sink. And he says, no, I like Peter, because Peter, unlike the 11 cowards behind him, got out of the boat and took a few steps in that water before he sank. So, I will walk upon the waters wherever you have called me. Yeah, we'll doubt. We'll start to sink. But he didn't fall the whole way down. He didn't drown. Christ was there, reach out a hand, and pull him back up. So, as James 2 says, what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if you have faith but do not have works? Can only faith save you? If a brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and eat your fill, and it does not supply their bodily needs, what good is that? So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. So, get out of the boat. Walk a few steps at least. Christ will be there to pick you back up. But walk upon the water.
Amen. Go in peace.